Hey everyone, it's Justin from Don't Open That Door here, and unfortunately I have a little bit of bad news. This week we're reviewing A Nightmare on Elm Street, and unfortunately, in between the time of recording and the time that we're releasing this episode, John Saxon has passed away. So he plays Lieutenant Thompson in this movie, but you might know him from other films. You know, he was in Enter the Dragon, and he was also in Black Christmas. So we here at Don't Open That Door would just like to extend our condolences to the family and friends, and we would just like to say rest in peace. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I am a very sleepy student, Justin.
I am Dominic Cobb, the main protagonist of the film Inception, which is about dreams.
Oh, was not expecting that one. And I am a fountain of blood, Dan.
Are you a fountain made of blood or a fountain that produces blood?
Both.
Bro, that's some Castlevania shit.
And, well, not speaking of Castlevania, but speaking of dreams, this week we got a special, a nice treat here. We're talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street, written and directed, and if you don't know this, shame on you, written and directed by the late, great Wes Craven. We've got Heather Langenkamp as Nancy, Johnny Depp in his feature film debut as Glenn, Jesus Garcia, though credited as Nick Corey, as Rod Lane, and we've got Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. And we have a little cameo from Lynn Shay of Insidious fame, and she is actually Nancy's teacher. So this movie opens with Tina. And it's kind of interesting because Tina's not the main character, right, Dan? But the movie does open with her.
Right, yeah. At the beginning, you kind of are led to believe that she's the main character. She is the main character for a good, 10, 15 minutes maybe. And then things happen to her, and Nancy becomes the main character.
True enough. So it opens with her, and she's basically had a nightmare about a man in a dirty green and red sweater, and he's got, they describe them as fingernails and later on as knives. But she relates this dream to her friends, Nancy, who's another girl her age, Glenn, who is Nancy's boyfriend, and Rod, who is her boyfriend. So Tina's really freaked out about it. She doesn't want to be alone. So what does she do, Dan?
So she decides to host a sleepover for her friends so that she's not alone at night. This is when she kind of brings up the nightmare to her friends. And when she mentions that this man in her nightmare had gloves with like knives on them and things, that kind of prompts Nancy to remember that she also had a similar dream. And I think maybe even Glenn or somebody else, I don't think comes out and says, hey, I had that dream, but you can tell that they're like, oh, that's kind of weird. Maybe it was Rod.
Suspicions are rising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they all kind of have this shared dream.
Agreed. So Tina, and now, so there are no adults in the house or anything. So Tina actually, she hooks up with Rod. Afterwards, Rod talks to her, and he actually mentions that he's been having nightmares too. So in a way, all of them have kind of been having nightmares. But Tina does fall asleep, and she is unfortunately murdered by Freddy. So Nico, what does Rod do when this happens?
So Rod, he tries to get out of Dodge because he's able to put two and two together and realizes that, oh, there's a dead body here. I'm the only other live person. Because, I don't think he could reasonably be like, hey, cops, come look at Freddy. Oh, darn, they got him. Movie's over. But no, he runs away. He's blamed for the murder. Over time, Nancy has some more vivid nightmares and more detail, more visceral, more violent, all involving Freddy. And she starts to piece those little puzzle pieces together. She starts to just connect those dots. And there's not too much time that goes by after that, but eventually Rod is captured and he is murdered in jail. And the way that he goes kaput is that Freddy kills him by strangling him with his own fucking bed sheet.
True. So after that, Nancy's mom actually takes her to a dream clinic, right? Because, Nancy's not trying to sleep and all this stuff is going on. And at the dream clinic, she falls asleep. And she has another dream with Freddy. And this time, because there are people there to wake her up, she's able to get out of the dream successfully. But also, she pulls Freddy's hat out. And at that point in time, she's got so many questions. And her mom starts freaking out. And actually, turns out her mom knows a little more than she was letting on. Because it turns out that the hat, well, first off, Freddy actually wrote his name down in his hat. I guess he really wanted it back.
Kind of cute if you think about it.
Yeah, in case it got lost. Like, hey, please give this back.
I remember when I used to do that. I was like 5.
Nancy's mom basically relates to her the story that Freddy Krueger was a child killer and he killed something like 20 kids in the neighborhood. And I guess, as she puts it, somebody forgot to sign a search warrant or something like that. And surprisingly, after killing 20 kids, he got away. However, the parents in the neighborhood took things into their own hands and they burned him alive. Woo! Don't really feel bad for him. So, Dan, after this, Nancy starts avoiding sleep, right? What happens after that?
So she decides she cooks up a plan, and she's going to get her boyfriend to wake her up at a certain time after she falls asleep. So she's going to try to draw Freddy out because she's already proven that she can bring things from the dream world to reality. So she wants to bring Freddy into reality and have her boyfriend beat the shit out of him and capture him or kill him or whatever, and hopefully be the end. So she takes some sleeping pills and tells her boyfriend not to go to sleep. Well, turns out he does fall asleep and he gets murked pretty violently.
Yeah, it's for those of you sitting at home and haven't seen it, the amount of blood in this movie would make Quentin Tarantino blush.
Fun fact.
At least during the death scenes. But what's that fun fact?
I read that they used 500 gallons of fake blood.
Holy Christ, do I believe it? Mm-hmm. Like, imagine if you had to do that for more than one take, too. Like, oh, God. Imagine what the set would smell like. Oh.
So one quick amendment, Dan. The scene, the scene you were talking about where she asks Glenn to watch over her, that actually happens before Rod is killed. So that happens, and then after the dream clinic, that's when Nancy really zeroes in on like not sleeping at all, and she tries to tell Glenn, "Hey, you can't sleep at all," but obviously he doesn't listen, which leads to the blood fountain, as I think it's known.
Yeah.
So after seeing this though, she doesn't give up, does she?
No.
There are some moments in the film immediately after that where she takes initiative, and I gotta give credit where credit is due. Like, there should be some sort of, like, I know we have the golden seal of approval, but can we instate something where like a character does almost everything right? Because I feel like Nancy is a fucking real one here. She sets some traps. She lights this man on fucking fire. She drags this guy into the real fucking world. And it seems like all is well that ends well. But how does this movie end again?
Well, it's funny that you say, so just to give some clarification, how she sets him on fire and everything else is because she actually, what Dan was saying earlier, she takes those sleeping pills, gets herself into the dream world, but she sets an alarm clock. So she's able to grab him and bring him back into the real world. And from there, he basically gets home alone. All types of, he takes basically like a sledgehammer to the chest. He trips and falls off, I think, the staircase. She lights his ass on fire. But yes, so after doing all that, she calls her father, Dad, come quick. And he was right across the street. So he finally, gets his ass over there. And you actually see flaming footsteps leading up to her mother's bedroom. And actually, Freddy takes her mother into the bed. That's not even suggested.
Like literally just
into a bed. And then the movie kind of closes on a very interesting note. So Freddy kind of reappears to, get rid of her. And she goes, I'm not afraid. And basically that kind of takes away his power because Freddy is a being who, he relies on fear. So when you're not afraid of him, he does kind of lose his power. And this is actually hinted at earlier in the movie by Johnny Depp's character, Glenn, when he talks about, a culture that has kind of learned to avoid nightmares by, turning your back and not giving it the response and the feeding it with your fear, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And the movie then closes with we'll talk about this a little bit later, but what some would view as a dream sequence where Nancy gets into a car that suspiciously has the convertible top is the same color design as Freddy's sweater. And then Freddy, basically murks Nancy's mom in the dream again. So let's go ahead and I'm actually going to break a tenet here and talk about the ending first.
Okay.
So first up, is that ending a dream sequence? Dan, what do you think?
I do think it is a dream sequence. I think that there's the creepy kids playing jump rope and singing. That's what does in the fog or the mist, whatever, is what makes me believe it's a dream.
I will say I concur, not only just due to to the kids jumping rope, because that was something that I think has been a kind of a recurring throughout the movie. But also the fact that the convertible was the same colors as Freddy, and then the car started acting, weird on its own. I don't know. That didn't feel like it was something that could realistically happen. But wait, Dan, listen real close, and I think you can hear a dissenting voice.
It's me.
Nico, is it a dream? Mr. Inception?
First off, that's fair. I don't know that I can say that it's a dream sequence. I'm not saying for sure that it's not, but here's my take on it.
Actually, Nico, can you pause real quick? To
Yes,
the
I can.
audience, we are going to debate this and talk about this movie within its own boundaries, right? So we're not bringing in, any of the future films. We're strictly doing this one as if this was the only one. So go ahead, Nico.
Yeah, and thank you for that context, because that is kind of like the crux on which a lot of my perspective and view rests here. So in this first movie, we are, as the audience, we're given sort of like a set of conventions and rules. But like, for example, Freddy appears in dreams. He gets you when you're asleep. But my rationale is that since this is the only film that in our minds anyway that we have to reference, I'm not so sure that we can assume that A, we know all the rules that Freddy operates under, or B, that like he's not holding something up his sleeve, because like the fact that the movie ends with, all the friends being, like they're alive again, they're in the car, like that seems a little, it definitely seems a little too good to be true. And there's definitely a little bit something, I guess you could say, shaky about that, but I'm just, I don't know. It seems like at least in terms of the direction of it, and by that I mean like the act of directing, not like the narrative of it, but like it seems to me as if Wes Craven did that to set it up for a sequel where the like it's explored further, like they look more into his abilities and whatnot, and how it sort of like all went down after the screen fades to black. But I do acknowledge that I could be 100% full of shit.
So you actually talked about the one thing that I think is the strongest piece of evidence, because we're basically faced with a duality here. Either the whole movie was a lie because her friends are all alive.
Mm-hmm.
So either the whole movie was a lie,
and that's something I was having trouble with too.
Yeah, or that scene is a dream. And I think based with everything gathered together, including that evidence, I would have to say that scene was a dream. Dan?
Yeah, I think it's a dream. Now, and I get a lot of the evidence. Like it's definitely left open for interpretation. And that being said, I did read an interesting tidbit coming in again with these. That apparently in the original script, the movie actually ended happily. And Nancy kills Freddy Krueger happily ever after. However, the producer actually wanted a twist ending where
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, where the end was actually that was a nightmare, and Freddy, I think he said like Freddy drives away in the car and like Freddy wins or whatever. They're all in a nightmare. So they actually ended up creating 4 different endings to this film. One with the happy ending, one with the bad ending, and then 2 that were compromises. And what we got was one of the compromise ones. But apparently Wes Craven has always maintained that the film should have had that happy ending that he had originally written.
See, that makes a lot of sense because, and like, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but the end scene feels rushed, in my opinion. Like, it doesn't have the same, I don't think, just like atmosphere as the rest of the movie. And it just seemed kind of like very, very sudden.
I agree
I
with
feel like,
you a little bit there.
Go ahead,
I think
go ahead.
that it's it definitely feels like an odd switch, right? Because one second
Yeah.
she's in the room with Freddy, opens the door, steps out, and all of a sudden we're in this sequence, and it does kind of take you out of it a lot.
Yeah.
Like, there's a time lapse, so we don't know how much of a time lapse.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I would, I don't think I've seen the happy ending that Wes Craven was talking about. I'm sure
Were those
it might
publicly
be
released?
I don't think so.
Maybe.
No. Or not that I
wrong.
know of
Shit.
anyways. Could be out there, but I
who
don't
knows?
know.
Maybe if you have like the super ultimate 25th anniversary edition volume X, maybe it's on there.
Could be
But
true.
I haven't seen it. I would like to. I would like to see it. And maybe that fits a little bit better. But no, that's interesting, Dan. That's interesting. So as you're, Dan, as you're over here stating your piece, what do you think about the audio in this movie?
I thought it was pretty good.
Agreed?
The music was awesome. I love the Freddy's theme, sort of that piano theme.
Yeah.
I also love that there's a song, like lyrics to it as well. That who sings it? Is it Nancy? I think sings it at one point, and then at the very last scene there, the like creepy like children playing jump rope also sing it as well.
1, 2, he's come for you.
Yeah, that I thought that was really cool, really great use of
Agreed.
the theme.
Yeah.
No, just overall, I really liked a lot of the audio.
Nico, would you say you echo those thoughts?
I actually do. Yeah. No, I really did enjoy the audio, and I didn't have any like complaints. The only things that like popped up were, and I think you're going to be proud of me for this one, Justin, because there's been a lot of times where like throughout the podcast, I've had my sort of like modern perspective on things where older films are a little bit difficult for me to sort of like throw down my sense of disbelief and all that.
I mean, that really screws my corks, but keep going.
Yeah. You want to give that one another try there? Screws your corks?
Yeah.
It screws your corks.
Yes.
Are you what? Anyway, I found a lot of this sort of like little effects that I think months ago, previous Nico would have found jarring. I didn't even really like pay any mind to them. So yeah, no, I take this as not only a personal milestone for my development as a horror connoisseur, as it is, as well as just like I thought they did a really good job.
Agreed. I liked it. There was even a part where she was in, she being Nancy was in one of the boiler rooms, and there was like this dope beat. This beat just dropped along
Hard Scary Hip Hop beat, 1984.
You know what? Freddy Krueger would write Heart Scary Hip Hop beat nowadays. But no, like, I agree. I thought that was pretty cool. Now we're going to move on to the visuals. I'm going to hog the limelight and say, for 1984, fucking phenomenal.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Yeah,
you thought I was going to hate. I wasn't.
I
Fuck
didn't.
you, Justin. Fuck your entire shit.
Oh my God.
Wow.
The fire. I'm not Fred Krueger. Relax. You don't got to burn me alive, dog. But no, so I do think that, there were so many cool effects. Particularly, there was one where Nancy was going up the steps and the steps like caved in and collapsed in. That was
shit
awesome.
was cool.
There was one where Freddy's face is like in the wall over her bed.
I love that scene.
That's my
fucking
favorite.
badass.
Oh, wait, I'm not supposed to say that part yet. Oh, well.
It's badass. There's another one where the blood fountain was awesome as well.
And that's
The
so cool
Blountain.
because like they had to have used like upside down room or rotating maybe even because of the way that the blood like
Yeah, the way it hit,
trails
it was
or
like
whatever.
directly going up, right?
Yeah.
Like straight up.
But
I
then
think I know
later
what they
it's-
did,
It's
actually.
going like
I'm pretty
sideways.
sure.
Oh, what was that?
I'm pretty sure they just got the Kool-Aid guy to Edge for like 3 hours and then just...
I mean,
My God.
it kind of seems like it.
But actually...
And so this is a deep cut. And if anyone else has seen this movie or knows about it, you are now my friend. But there's another super gory movie called Ricky O,
Can we review that, please?
or the Legend of Ricky O, or something like that. But yeah, it's there's a ton of blood in that film, and I would be curious to know because I know in Ricky, one of the actors, he said, it took him like a week to get the fake blood off of him.
Wow.
Holy shit, I'd buy it, though.
I just wonder how hard some of that blood was to clean up because it was a literal fountain. But
I don't think that was fake blood. I mean, that was too
What was it,
watery.
pig's blood?
It was too watery to do that. And I think
it was quite watery.
I think fake blood would be too thick to fountain up like that.
Oh, I see what you mean. Never mind.
True.
So I
You're
don't
right,
know if
Dan.
they
I'm
used like
proud of you.
dyed water or something.
No, I'm proud of you for knowing the
My
viscosity
knowledge
of blood.
of blood.
Yeah. Nico, did you agree with how the blood was born? Do you think it fit what Dan said?
I am an expert on all things bloodborne, so yeah, no, that tracks.
Cool. So we all agree though. I mean, I feel like I've said it, but you all fucking agree, right? Visually phenomenal.
I do.
Oh, no, it's great.
I think this movie was ahead of its time personally because like
Hell
even
yeah.
like the cinematography, there are certain shots that are just like they look like the way that the shot was shot looks more modern. Like the bathtub scene where like she's in the bathtub and then you see Freddy's claws kind of come up out of the water. That was really cool. And then there's a scene when she's in school, like the next day after Tina gets murdered. And like Tina just like shows up in like a body bag in like her like dream hallucination
That
thing.
shit was
Yeah.
terrifying.
That it was, and it looked so like
It looks so good.
yeah, and I can't really describe it, but it looked like they had a modern like 2020 mentality sort of. Just the way those kind of scenes were shot just like didn't
Yeah.
seem like it was from 1984. And
Yeah.
it was I loved the visuals and the cinematography in this film.
Completely agreed. Completely agreed.
All right, so now let's go ahead and actually, because we were kind of talking a little bit about how Freddy was, got brought into the real world and was getting fucked up by the traps. I guess real quick, it's kind of like I don't think it requires too much thought, but does that make Freddy weaker to you? Does that make him seem like less of a monster as opposed to somebody like, I guess, Jason? Not that the two would ever meet, but do you think that makes Freddy look like less of a monster? Again, audience for reference, the scene where Nancy brings Freddy out of the dream and, her homemade traps that she read in a book, literally read out of a book, affect him
Yeah.
badly. So, I mean, the fact that you can fight against a monster in a way that almost kind of goes against one of the cardinal rules of horror, that, like the monsters are almost invincible. And no, Nancy's over here fucking him up.
Yeah, no, I actually do like that they made Freddy a little bit more human in that way because, well, one, he has personality in spades, I think, but two, it shows that, like, even though he is a, like, literal dream-haunting monster, there are ways it makes it a little bit more manageable, I think, as an audience when we see that, like, the people whose perspectives we are sort of jumping into can actually do something. Not that that makes it necessarily any less scary, but I think that just makes I think it's just different. I think it makes people in horror movies just like engage more as opposed to just being scared. So in my perspective, it's less of an whether or not he's super effective or like make him less scary. I think it's more like an apples and oranges thing.
Okay. I will say it also makes it easier if, you were in that situation, or if you ever had to think about what you would do in that situation. I think it would definitely make things easier. But Dan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does make him a little more human, but I'm with Nico. I really like that. Like, I love the sort of, I don't know, juxtaposition maybe of, on one hand, we've got dreams and how he lives and exists in your dreams. And it's very, ethereal isn't the right word, but, he's not a physical thing, but then he does have human characteristics, like his weapon, the claws. They're not just like claws; they're knives that he sewed onto a glove. Like that's a very human, realist. Like
it's the first thing we see is him doing that.
Yeah,
Yes.
and you can actually do that. Like you can get a glove and you can do that yourself. Like it's not like some superpower or magical ability or anything.
We're not suggesting you do.
No.
Just saying that you can.
So the fact that he can get messed up from traps, to me, also makes him more human in a good way. I like that we have this sort of inhuman dream side of it, but also, hey, he is a human. And the traps didn't fuck him up too bad. I mean, he does take a sledgehammer to the stomach and just kind of rolls with it, literally rolls down the steps and then
At first, I thought that was
That
a
was
sledgehammer
funny.
to the nuts. That was like,
that would hurt.
I thought they were going to do that, but no. And Dan, you actually talked about it a little bit. First off, I agree with you too. I do think I like it. My only thing is he does like give out a couple grunts of pain.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had him necessarily be in so much pain, but otherwise I like it. But Dan, you mentioned dreams, and this is kind of like one of the core concepts of the movie. How do you guys feel about the concept of a monster or a ghost, demon, spirit, whatever you want to call them, that literally haunts the one place you can't escape from? If he haunted a house, we'll just get the fuck out of the house. But he haunts dreams, something that everyone, even if you don't remember, you've got to have them. You have to sleep.
Yeah.
So first off, it's extremely creative to have, not that, there's obviously stories and folklore going way back about this kind of stuff, but how do you feel about, this kind of, because I believe in terms of modern, fairly modern American, horror movies, he's one of the first to really be like a kind of dream haunting demon. So how do you guys feel about that?
I like it. I'm a sucker for the like dream kind of stuff. I just always find
Me
it
too.
fascinating. So as long as a movie does it well, I love it like that. And time travel and sort of all those like mystical isn't quite the right word, but I can't describe it. But all that kind of stuff, as long as it's done well, I'm a sucker for it. So I really thought it was a cool idea.
Okay.
So My perspective, I've talked about this, I think, a couple of times on the pod, but I'll give more of a fuller story. So when I was 6, or 5 or 6, I can't remember exactly, but I watched The Sixth Sense, and that was a movie that really fucked me up when I was that young, and it made me scared to go to sleep at night. Like, I was genuinely terrified of sleeping when I was a child because that was, something that was just planted into my mind. So I think if I was someone who was in Nancy, Glenn, or any of their shoes, I think I'd be scared shitless, not least of which because it's already pretty well documented, both in real life and on here, that I don't fucking sleep ever. So, like, he's gonna fucking get me. Like, I'm screwed.
That's interesting because I actually thought he might not. But I actually agree with Dan. I'm the same way. As keen listeners will know, if you've listened back to the podcast, I suffer from sleep paralysis, so game over. But
Yeah.
if I didn't, right, if I was lucky, I love the concept of a monster that is, in a way, if, and we see at the end, if you don't give him the fear, he can't hurt you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a powerful message, I think.
It
I
is,
love it.
Yeah.
I do too. Yeah.
So, and I guess one thing now, and we're going to go ahead and transition here a little bit, but one thing that you may not love is the character of Rod. So because one theme that's definitely present in this movie is, and it's something else I did want to talk about, is the adults in this movie suck. They all suck. They're terrible people.
Literally all of them.
Not one is good. We have the mother who, she kind of is a little bit negligent. She also drinks way too much.
little.
She's got her own problems, but instead of dealing with them, she just doesn't. The father he's seemingly never home. He's not, I don't even know if he's with the mother or not. I don't
think so. It doesn't seem like it.
Not clear.
Yeah, it's not clear, but he's either separated or he's never there because, again, he was at the station and he also, like, Nancy does things and he's like, well, how could your mother let you do this? But you're her father. So, there's that piece to it. None of the parents are able to give any kind of help to any of the kids. But then we have Rod, and I feel bad for him. So Rod is, he's like a tough guy. He wears like a leather jacket. He acts real tough, but we do see moments of, I would honestly say, vulnerability from him. After he, has some relations with Tina, he actually talks to her openly and he's like, no more fights, right? And she's like, yeah, no more fights. And then he talks about having a nightmare and she reacts to it and he doesn't quite understand her reaction. He's like, hey, guys can have nightmares too. And I thought I like that. I did like that. And also there's a scene where he tackles Glenn, but he helps him back up. And I think all in all, I definitely think he's, trying to, especially when you're like a young man, you try and portray this persona of like strength and all this stuff like that. Cause who doesn't? But at the same time, none of the adults ever believe him. Also, first off, how the fuck was he meant to have killed Tina? Like, literally, they're like, oh, he had a switchblade. How the fuck was he meant to do that with a switchblade?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even make any sense. And no one listens to the fact that all the witnesses are like, literally what Nancy should have said is they weren't fighting. Like, they were literally just having sex. Like, they were chill. Everything was cool. And I don't know. And he's just so unfairly maligned. Like, he runs away and Nancy's father like almost shoots him in the back when he's literally, he doesn't even know if he's guilty or not. And then in the jail cell, he obviously is killed. At his funeral, and I don't mean to rant, but at his funeral, the priest says he was a good kid, but you know what they say, live by the sword, die by the sword. And I was like, what the fuck?
That is kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Like, what did he do to deserve that? And it was just like, I don't know. I feel like he was someone that the people in the town failed. And I just thought that tied in really well with the theme of, being incompetent because in a way, and granted, the characters in this movie are all like high schoolers. So young adults kind of, but still kind of children as well, And it's one of those things where like, that's the most precious resource any community has. Like they lost that because of their own inadequacy. So fucking Nancy's mom was like, she was like blacked out from drinking. Nancy goes over to like her mom in the bed and she pulls out the bottle and just starts chugging. I was like, God damn.
And she had a backup bottle too in the closet.
Yeah. So I don't know, that was wild. But how do you guys feel about Rod? I'm curious to hear.
So I didn't think that deeply about Rod. But I do agree with you, though. I agree. I mean, I don't think he's a bad dude. I think he's maybe a slightly troubled youth, because they do mention that
go.
he
Yeah, he has a small rap.
yeah, but nothing like actually bad, like real actually bad. He didn't kill people or rob people. I don't think
he got some
anything like
minor
that.
misdemeanors.
Yeah, but I mean, I think he's troubled. I mean, after listening to your thing about him, I agree with you. I think he's kind of portrayed to be that guy that you kind of don't initially like, but then, when you think about it, I think you're right. Yeah.
Nico.
Can't imagine why you're speaking in that awful kind demeanor there. I don't really like Rod. I will say, though, after you said your case, I understand Rod, and I understand why you like him. I've just never dug the whole bullshit machismo vibe that he gives off, and it's just it's always seemed super douchey to me. So I understand that he is definitely a product of his environment, and that society definitely did let him down, and I don't view him as a villain or anything. I just don't like him that much.
Yeah, I'm going to save this last dagger before we move on. I connect so well with characters like Rod because that was me.
I know it was you. That's why. I fucking know it was you.
And I didn't like you.
Oh, man. But yeah, so that's a little side tangent. But now we're going to get to, the real.
Actually, I just had a fucking revelation.
What?
In
What's
high
that?
school, when we met, you were Rod and I was fucking Glenn.
That's interesting. That's
that is
interesting that you
accurate,
thought
though.
I was Rod and you were Glenn. That's interesting. But
At least among this cast of characters, we don't really have many
Yeah,
options.
there's two choices.
Rod or Glenn. But no. So
Dan, you
Now
can
we're
also
gonna-
be Glenn. We can be Glenn in the same body.
We'll be Glenn Brothers.
We'll be Glenn.
So now we're going to go ahead and swap over to what would you do? So this is interesting because this is the first one where I think Nico can't just walk away and betray me. So, well, I guess you could still betray me. But,
I should just fucking murder you.
yeah, just cause, right? But
Just
no,
cause, Old
so
time's
let's
sake.
say the three of us are back at blank high school. The three of us are experiencing these weird dreams. We walk into what's one class we had together? Oh, right, Mr. Blank's class. And we're like, bro, did you have those dreams? Oh shit, it's Freddy Krueger, isn't it? What do you do?
I think I'd just punch him in the fucking face.
But I'm saying in the dream,
Nancy
you
fucking
might-
decks him. Nancy just fucking charges at him, does a fucking bull rush and just takes him down and just kick his ass.
I will say, quick tangent, when she cocks up that plan to capture him, she's running around the dream world and she's like, where are you? And then he shows himself and she runs away. I'm like, but you're supposed to be finding him. So as soon as she leaves and gets away from him and she's safe, she's like, come out from hiding. And I'm like, you just ran away from the dude. You had him right there. Anyways, that's whatever.
So are you saying would you want to come up with a group plan? Just watch over this man, and if he's having a nightmare, wake him up, or what would you do?
I think that would be my role because my whole thing with I think he would get me is because I inevitably end up usually collapsing after a week or two. So I would be the support role in the party for at least the long haul. But yeah, no, if he just popped up in real life, I'd just kick his ass.
Yeah, to be honest with you, and I think the cool thing about this movie is, like I said, Nancy really plotted it out. Because honestly, what I'd do? I'd be like, all right, guys, look, I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm gonna grab him, and when he comes out, stomp him out. And literally, he would come
That's
out.
the moves.
We just stomp him out.
Well, I have a
feel
question
that-
though. Do
What's
we
up?
in this hypothetical situation, do we know who Freddy Krueger is?
That's true. I guess that's fair. You know what? Well, that's an interesting question because people in the town knew. So I guess if people in our hometown of blank knew, then
Yeah, but
I guess we'd have to do some.
We might not know though.
Maybe we'd go to the library or something like that.
We're pretty smart folks, y'all.
That's not something you find at the library.
Okay. Maybe
You don't
we would
find criminal
hypothesize.
history from the library.
Can't even find Dr. Seuss.
I mean, what I'm trying to get at is if we know Freddy Krueger is a thing, if this happened to us now, and we know, and Freddy Krueger movies have been around, Nightmare on Elm Street has been around, then yeah, I would, fucking squat up and actually institute Nancy's plan and fuck him up. But if we don't know him, I feel like Nancy went through like the right process because she didn't know anything about
Which
him,
is
so she
why
kind
I
of
wanted to
figured it
say she
out.
should get some kind of award or something. Like, that never happens.
I agree.
True. But no, okay, that's fair. That's fair, Dan. I would say for the record, I almost kind of feel like we would eventually maybe wake up from one of the, because he doesn't kill you immediately. He lets you have a couple dreams first. So
What do you think would happen if he met up with the dude from Hellraiser? With fucking Frank?
I don't think
What
Frank
would
would be
happen?
scared. Freddy wouldn't have power over Frank.
Oh, true. Good call,
No,
good
Frank
call, good call.
has seen some shit.
I know. I will say, and this is one thing that I guess you can note, I don't think Freddy goes after grown-ups because I don't think grown-ups are as scared of him. Like, I think he specifically targets, like younger
They're
people.
more vulnerable too.
Yeah, because they're like not as in control and, your mind is still open to the possibility of something fantastical or crazy.
Well, I thought it was
sure.
also a little bit of like he was getting revenge.
That too.
Because, he
killing their
Also
kids.
that.
Yeah, because he was, killed kids. And so
Yeah.
he was targeting the kids of the people who killed him.
I guess in a way, is that really revenge or is that just like
It's just
'cause technically,
venge.
yeah, the parents got revenge on him for killing their kids.
Oh, yeah.
So
he's
I
just
guess
It's
that's just-
revenge, as
continuing.
in, yeah, insofar as mean like do it again, not like in response to.
Picked up where
I
he
don't know.
left
And
off.
for the record, by the way, like the film almost makes it seem like them getting together and burning down Krueger was a bad thing. I'm gonna say it right now. If someone kills 20 kids, I will lead the mob to
Burn
like.
all pedophiles to death. That is a don't open that door
So,
stance.
I mean, pretty true, but also, and it's funny you mentioned that, Nico. Apparently, in the original plot, that's what he was supposed to be.
Oh, yeah, no, I can
But
see why
but
that.
they swapped it. But they swapped it to a murderer.
Yeah, I can see why they would do that.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go ahead and lace this movie with a criticism, if you have any. I mean, Nico, do you have any?
Why are you coming to me first with criticisms? Am I the criticism guy?
All right, damn. I'm gonna go to the I'm saying to the good guy over here, Dan. Dan, you have any criticisms potentially?
I think
Small?
it's small. My only real criticism is the end that we kind of mentioned before. It seemed
Okay.
kind of out of place a little bit. I kind of wish that, knowing the backstory of how that end happened, I kind of wish they had like made a decision and stuck with it and said, you know what, fuck
Gotcha.
it. This, pull rank and just say, I'm the producer, I'm the screen, whatever. This is what it's going to be. Let's make it happen, and because I feel like spreading it out across, several different things and trying to choose the best one and whatever, it was just out of place, I feel like.
That's certainly true. Nico, any criticisms from you?
What I didn't like was that there was a lot of some of the delivery and the acting just wasn't as great. Just in general, some of the dialogue was a little flat, but I'm just chalking that up to it was a horror movie in the 80s.
All right. I guess for me, Dan, I have to follow what you said about the ending. I will say, and this is a super minor thing. I almost feel like, and this was kind of the point, but there's hard evidence in this movie. I'm talking Nancy got burned in English class. No one cared.
Yeah.
She got cuts and pulled a hat in a dream lab that like everyone was watching. So I almost feel like this was one of those where like there was hard documented evidence and everyone just kind of hand waved it, which
Yeah.
again is probably part of the point, which is why it's almost like me searching for something here. So yeah. But let's go ahead and flip the coin a little bit and let's talk about favorite scenes. Let's talk about one in particular. Dan, what's your most favorite scene?
That's hard, man.
Nico, start thinking.
I already have mine. Fuck you.
Oh,
My-
swap. Nico, you go.
So my favorite scene is the one where it's either is it Nancy or Glenn that's in the bed when it's like the walls turn to paper and you see his face and hands just like sort of push outwards.
That's Nancy.
I just thought that scene was so fucking cool, especially with the cinematography being, it's like you were saying, Dan, like some of the shots they had were a little bit more ahead of their time. And I just thought with the lighting and the way that they positioned him above Nancy and sort of like pushing through the fabric of reality, I thought that was fucking sick.
That's going to have to be mine as well. I mean, I mentioned before there's a few scenes I really like, but that one really, really stood out to me.
It's so fucking rad. Even in 2020, it's fucking rad.
I'm going to go ahead and cheat a little bit here. I got a couple. So first off, a quote. I'm going to give 2 quotes. So the first, Rod is, like I was saying before, he was hooking up with Tina. Johnny Depp's character, Glenn, is downstairs and you can hear it really loud. And he's just sitting there and he looks at the camera and he gives this like, God, it's such a...
He says, morality sucks.
Yeah, and he goes, morality sucks. So I thought that was pretty cool. Another quote.
For context, it's because he tried to hook up with his girlfriend, Nancy, and she was like, no, we're not going to do this tonight because we're here to support Tina.
Tina's getting hers in the meantime,
Right.
by the
For
way.
even more context, it's loud as shit when they're banging.
Yeah. So that's one quote. The other quote was in her class, and I thought it was pretty cool as well. I could be bounded in a nutshell. I think it's bounded or bound in a nutshell and count myself a king of infinite space were it not that I have bad dreams. That's fucking it's badass.
That's deep.
And I will say as well, for the podcast, the blood fountain scene is fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It really is.
It's really fucking sick.
Yeah. So let's go ahead now and talk about the critical review to bring this one to a close. So, I mean, obviously, you guys know that this movie was really well reviewed by the critics. Obviously, it's a classic movie, right? It's got a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics and 83% from the audience. I'm going to go ahead and lead with our paladin of truth, Dan. What do you think? Where would you put this out of 100? Where would you rank this movie?
I'm going to put it at 91.
Fucker. Every time. Sorry. Go ahead. You were saying.
91.
Nico, where would you have this swinging in at?
I am going to put this in at a 92 because I am very pleasantly surprised by how good this movie was. It's been years since I've seen it.
I was going to say, I put this at a 90. And believe it or not,
Wow.
I came up with that score before I spoke with you guys. I think for all the reasons that we've discussed, I mean, being so far ahead of its time, still being a proper fucking flick today.
It's
also,
good.
And I will say, I have something special planned for, October, as you guys both know.
Can't imagine what.
Little peek behind the curtains. But no, this movie is, and obviously I may not include it in that because we're watching it now, but this movie has such a good spooky vibe to it. Seriously.
Oh, yeah.
It does. And when she's like in the boiler room scene, trying to like draw him out, that was creepy. Like just the whole boiler room aesthetic was just creepy.
Yeah, and that's exactly the scene that I was talking about. It's just one of those things where it's like, it's just crazy to me that like it still is that good, even today. And like a no bullshit, I can sit down and watch it. So yeah. So let's go ahead and see. Would you recommend this to someone? Nico?
Fuck yeah.
Dan?
Fuck yeah.
It's a yes for me as well. Does it get the golden seal of approval from you, Nico?
Enthusiastically so, yes.
Dan?
Yes.
It's a yes from me. This has been
Wow.
stamped with the golden seal of approval. It's been a while.
It has
It's been a
been a
while
while.
It
since
has
we
been a
had one get
while.
added. I think we only have like 2 or 3 movies there. We had Train to Busan,
Colorado Space.
Colorado Space, and now this.
We've got the horror shorts in there as well.
Ah, true.
I feel like there's one other one.
I could have sworn there was another one.
There's another one.
I'm almost positive there's another one. We should fucking know this, but we don't.
Well, that's it from us here pretty much. Nico and Dan, do you have anything you want to add to this?
No.
Yeah, I'm real excited to review the sequels, I gotta say.
The what now?
I mean, if there are any sequels, I would be excited to fuck you.
Yeah, no. That's definitely something we'll have to look into because it's a mixed bag with those, but for sure we'll look into that. Dan, anything from you?
Nope.
If you like what you've heard, please go ahead and give us a follow on Twitter or Instagram. We're at DOTD Horror. We're on Facebook at Don't Open That Door. That's been it from Justin, Nico, and Dan. Stay safe, everyone. Sweet dreams. And please, ladies and gents, don't open that door. Have a nice night.